What we do know, Darren, is the window is open for tags, franchise and transition tag. I think I have a pretty good handle at this point about the franchise tag. The transition tag, refresh our memory on the transition tag, because that's what Kenyon Drake got last year, right?
Yeah, the transition tag is basically a lesser version of the franchise tag, and essentially what it comes down to is that um, you tag a guy instead of having an actual draft compensation attached to it like the franchise tag. Um, you 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 just are trying to match the offer. You get our first refusal for anybody who signs them to an offer sheet. And the difference is instead of being an average of the top 5 contracts out there for that position, it's the average of the top 10, which is probably not a gigantic difference at this point for most positions, to be honest. But it would be a little bit lower, and it gives you a little bit more elbow room when it comes to doing a tag. But you can only do one a year, either franchise or transition. And they did the right thing with Drake last year, because at $8 million, no one was going to offer him more money than that. And we'll see what happens this year with like perhaps Haason Reddick, where that might go. But I do think that becomes a lot more different of a situation, because I think Reddick will be more in demand than Kenyon Drake was last year.
And Steve Keim did say on 98.7 FM Arizona Sports, Kyle, that it is possible, quote unquote, possible that Haason Reddick could be tagged. How likely or unlikely do you think, in your opinion?
I think in a regular year, it would be more likely, because he's almost that perfect candidate who had a great season, 12 and a half sacks, really came on at the end of the season, but only doing it 1 year. Are you a little bit afraid to give him this 5-year deal with $45 million guaranteed, where if you just give him 1 year, you can say, if you prove it again, if you get double digit sacks again, we'll feel good about paying you. So I think in a normal situation, he'd be a prime candidate. The difference this year is the salary cap is so much lower that if you sign him to a 1-year deal for whatever it's going to be, $14-15 million, probably for the transition tag, that's a pretty big chunk of your cap space for one guy for 1 year. If you do a 3 or 4 year deal, you can really spread it out and make the salary cap hit this season a lot lower. So that's what gives me pause, because of the pandemic related issues. But still, because of what he did and because of his track record previously, it wouldn't shock me if they did tag Haason Reddick, because he does have that kind of upside where you really want to keep him, and that's not committing to a long-term deal.
For me, the interesting part about the tag for Reddick is I feel like if you tag him, you have to know that you are well down the road to getting him signed, because you can't. I don't think you can essentially tag him and have that turn into something where he's playing on that this year. I mean, there's already a little bit of concern when you talk about Chandler Jones, and his cap hit is over $20 million. And if you have another 14, 15, $16 million of a hit for Haason Reddick, I don't know how you do that with just 2 people. And in fact, where they stand right now, because again, as long as the guy's tagged, that counts against your cap. I believe that just tagging him would essentially use up all your available cap space. You'd be frozen until you did something in terms of with your existing contracts already, or being able to sign anybody else. And I just think that would be too much of an issue. It reminds me so much of where they were, and it wasn't because of the tag, but back in the day, before Alan Faneca went to the Jets and had another 3 great years of his career, and obviously just got into the Hall of Fame. He was leaving the Steelers, and Russ Grimm was coaching here, and Ken Wisenhunt was coaching here, and the Cardinals really wanted him, and he wanted to come here when he still had a lot left in the tank. But that was the offseason where they had to do something with Larry Fitzgerald's deal, and they were hamstrung because of the cap hit. And by the time they got Larry's deal worked out, Faneca had already signed because he couldn't pass up what the Jets were offering him. And you don't want to be in a position where you have no flexibility and lose out on guys you might be able to get because of the one tag. And I think that's what they're, in a lot of ways, what they're faced with Haason Reddick.
I wonder if one edge rusher contract begets another. You sort of read my mind when you brought up Chandler Jones, Darren. I wonder, they get a deal done, an extension done with Chandler Jones. They bring down that cap number from 20 plus million per year, and that allows them to get a deal done, the cap room at least, to either tag Haason Reddick and or get a contract in place. So it'll be more favorable long term, and really work under the auspices of this year and that ceiling, whatever it's going to be. We know the floor is going to be 180. Is the ceiling going to be 183 to 185? We'll see. Either way, it's a haircut from 198 and makes it more challenging for teams. So I wonder to what degree, Kyle, they might be looking at their two edge rushers as literally a bookend deal on and off the field in terms of the contract.
I think it makes a lot of sense to extend Chan Jones from the Cardinals' point of view because, like you said, it can bring down his cap hit this season. And I feel like with Chandler Jones's skill set, and if you can get Haason Reddick back, they really complement each other well. Where Chandler Jones is this elite pass rusher, that's his big identifiable skill. Haason Reddick can rush the passer too, but he's so athletic that he can drop in coverage and do some other stuff when you need to only rush four guys and have that outside linebacker drop. So I think they work well together. The question is, what kind of extension can you give Chandler Jones, who's coming off a season-ending injury, who's I think 31 years old now? The negotiations get trickier at this point, as we see with Patrick Peterson, where Chandler Jones has been an all-pro edge rusher for a long time. 2 years ago, he's second in Defensive Player of the Year voting, so he thinks he deserves this $20 million, and I just want more money these next couple seasons. What do the Cardinals offer him? Would they be in the same ballpark? If they are, I agree with you. I think you extend him for a little bit less money than he got in his prime, but then you can push that money down, and then it helps free up room for this season. If it's not Chandler, I do feel like there's ways you can cut guys or renegotiate other contracts and get cap room. So I'm a little less concerned with that. I feel like if they want certain guys this offseason, I think they can kick the can down the road.